I love coming into my family room where I'm surrounded by memories that remind me of the difference between success and significance. And in this environment, I couldn't help but reminisce on my adventure soaring to the edge of space in a U-2 reconnaissance aircraft, where for over 5 hours at over 16 miles above the Earth's surface, I witnessed the curvature of the Earth. I gazed into the endless blackness of the universe and pondered eternity and my place in it. And I couldn't help but start thinking huge thoughts like, are we more than mere mortal beings living on a small planet for a short season? What's it really all about? And if we're the only ones here, this sure is a lot of wasted space. And you know what occurred to me when we landed? That the universe is definitely organized. It's been created by a set of laws. And so when I landed, I became a curious student of astronomy and how the universe has been organized. And I started reading everything I could get my hands on, especially the writings of Wernher von Braun, who was the father of NASA. He's the one that clarified that the universal language is mathematics. And so he identified the correct mathematical equation and algorithms necessary and required to put a man on the moon and return him safely to Earth. More than serendipitous, I went to see the movie Hidden Figures that brought it alive, which was the celebration of Katherine Johnson, who worked for NASA, who was that human computer who actually came up with a solution to bring astronaut John Glenn safely back to Earth. And in that movie, there was a critical scene that most of us just passed over where Katherine Johnson had that aha moment and remembered Euler's theorem, a Swiss mathematician who published his theorem way back in 1768. So in the movie, they called it old math, but in reality, Glenn orbited the Earth 7 times in his Mercury capsule in the early 1960s, and today, in the 21st century, scientists still use Euler's theorem. My point, it's not old math, it's right math. When we focus in on these laws of the universe that never change, that are always in play regardless of we are or not, it's amazing how life and our destiny and our purpose and meaning and place in eternity seems to make more sense. How about the laws of gravity, the laws of physics, the laws of relativity, the law of attraction, the law of energy and vibration resonance, the law of the harvest, the law of progression? They're all laws regardless if we believe them or not. How does that equate to our human experience? Well, I'm not the first one who was curious about how this organization of the universe applies to our experience here in mortality. Leonardo da Vinci, he designed and drew that Vitruvian model, if you remember, the Vitruvian man, where it's a spread eagle diagram of a human being, a man, and he puts that diagram in a triangle, in a square, and in a circle to show our symmetry and our creation as human beings fits perfectly into the organization, symmetry, if you will, and creation of the universe. So having said that, I dove deeply into how the universe is organized and how it applies to our mortality, and identified that obedience clearly is the highest law of the universe. All other rules and laws are governed by it. So if you can follow along with me, the number one highest law of the universe is obedience. Our universe was organized by a set of laws. And when we obey this specific law, we reap this specific reward. And when we disobey that specific law, we also suffer that specific consequence attached to that law. Obedience is the number one highest law of the universe. And to test our obedience, we were given what is called free will agency. So we were always enticed to go this way or that, enticed by one way or the other. And to guarantee that our free will agency would always be in play, we were given an opposition in all things. You have to have darkness to appreciate the light. You have to have sickness to appreciate health. You have to have justice to appreciate mercy, and you have to have death to appreciate the sanctity of life. And because our free will agency would oftentimes get us into trouble, in other words, obedience is what protects free will agency. If you disagree, visit any penitentiary and you'll see that their choice, their free will choice, based on the opposition in all things and the temptations in their lives, is exactly what landed them in a jail cell. So to minimize our risk and to help us make a proper choice and do the right thing simply because it's the right thing to do, every person born into this world was born with an inherent ability to choose good from evil, right from wrong. We call that ability our conscience, which means our conscience will never fail us. Only our desire to follow it decreases as we continue to do the wrong thing. Example, if all of us gathered together and entered the same room at the same time as a group, and that room stunk so badly, it smelled so badly, that we kicked into automatic gag reflex, and our eyes started to water and our noses started to bleed. Do you realize if we stayed in that smelly room 5 to 10 minutes, suddenly it would no longer smell? We had become desensitized and it now was our new normal. If we're honest with ourselves, are we not being desensitized every single day in some way or another based on the movies we watch, the fake news we buy into, and the influences around us? As I've written my book, The Art of Significance, Achieving the Level Beyond Success, what I did was simply identify the 12 most common principles of success that have actually created limiting beliefs, and I've replaced them with the 12 highest universal laws, the 12 irrefutable laws of the universe that make our human experience here in mortality on earth meaningful and allow us to not only learn the rules of the game, but then win the game based on playing by the rules.